Hello everybody, my name is Fariba and welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I would like to do a review of Montaillou by Emmanuel Ladurie, which was translated from the French by Betty Radis. So Montaillou was an Albigensian village in southern France in the Occitan region, and the information in this book was taken from an Inquisition Register kept by Jacques Fournier, who was the Bishop of Pamiers in southern France. He eventually became the Avignonese Pope Benedict XII. But while he was bishop, he was also an inquisitor, and he went after the Albigensians in this village, Montaillou, as well as in the other villages in the Diocese of Pamiers. This book is not mostly about the heresy itself, although there is quite a lot of information about that, but most of it is about peasant life. We don't usually get a lot of information about peasants, because peasants by and large were illiterate, but because of this Inquisition Register, which is naturally a very disturbing document, we do get to know a lot about the day-to-day life of these individuals. At the center of village life was either the domus or the cabane. The domus meant household, and those who were sedentary, the families like the Pierre Clerc family who were sedentary, their lives really centered around the domus. But there were also nomadic shepherds like Pierre Maury who lived in the cabane. The cabane, of course, was a temporary location where they would live before they would then move to another place with their sheep. But in general, there was some sort of a location that was considered the center of the Montaillou identity. There is a lot of information about their family life, and including their sex lives. And some families had a higher libido than others. So Pierre Clerc, who was the patriarch of the Clerc family, was actually quite a disgusting person. He himself was an Albigensian, at least sympathizer, but he would threaten women with reporting them to the Inquisitor so that they would then sleep with him. Sometimes he would rape them. He was a really nasty person, and he would also get into a lot of conflicts with families, and other families would also get into conflicts with him, and they would just report each other to the Inquisition if they didn't like each other. So that was basically revenge in this village. So the family life chapters in this book are some of the most interesting. There is a really interesting practice of delousing that was quite popular in Montaillou, and delousing is exactly what it sounds like. People removing lice from each other, you know, like monkeys do. This was actually quite a common practice in this village, where people never took baths, ever, or even wore different clothing. So people had a lot of lice on them. It was actually a very intimate practice where lovers would delouse each other, but they would also gossip about what was going on in the village, where is the Inquisitor, etc. If I had one criticism in this book, it would be that the chapter on the Albigensian heresy itself could have been earlier in the book, so that people would have background knowledge about the Albigensian beliefs before learning more about peasant life, because it really is connected in some way to the Albigensian practices. Before Catherine died, they would undergo this long fast, which would then eventually end in their deaths anyway. It was called the consolamentum, where people would refrain from eating anything or drinking anything, and it was really harsh on the families. So that's one of the more interesting Albigensian practices. What is really interesting about this book is that Ladurie actually cites, like directly cites from the Inquisition Register, and Fournier kept very detailed records about each of these heretics whom he interrogated. So we get to learn from these people's lives what life was like for them in Montaillou. And so while it's a really disturbing document, this register, it's also has a wealth of information that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get if we didn't have this register. So if you're interested in peasant life, I highly recommend Montaillou. Let me know if you have read this book, or if there are other books on Albigensian life that you would recommend to me. If you're interested in the crusade itself, I recommend The Albigensian Crusade by Jonathan Sumption. All the information for all the books that I've mentioned will be down in the description. But Sumption writes narrative histories. They are very good histories, but they're also very readable. At times, this was a bit dry, so if you are used to reading a lot of creative nonfiction, you might be a bit disappointed because you just get the facts. But I actually prefer this kind of academic nonfiction because it does just give you the facts and, like I said, quotes directly from these peasants. So this is a very, very good history and should be easy to find in many places. I bought this used at Half Price Books, so I think it is widely available. So that's my review of Montaillou, and I'll see you later. Bye now.